Yes.
Hello, Tim.
Hey, guys.
Well, we're gonna have your presentation, item number 6 after public comment. So I'm gonna call the meeting to order. We'll do a roll call. Kim has asked to be excused and Derek should be coming. So we'll move on to approval and repair of the agenda. Everybody had time to take a look at the agenda. So I'll need a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Tim,
Second.
second by Nick. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carried. Approval and repair of last month's minutes. You guys had a chance to take a look over them. If you see any additions or corrections.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I will second.
All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign, motion carries. We'll move on to public comment. We're gonna hold a public comment like we always do till 3 minutes per person today. And we'll keep it to the 20-minute maximum since Lee and the Cedron team is on so we can get to their presentation. So is there anybody from the public that wishes to speak? Anybody from the public? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, my concern is with,
State your name.
I'm Deborah Noel. I'm from Casco, the town of Casco. And my main concern with this project that Cedron and Kinnard Farms has is the questions I had presented to Cedron that we were set up to have a Zoom meeting with a couple of my associates and I were not answered, and the meeting was canceled, and there was no explanation why the questions weren't answered. I'm not saying I'm against this project. It sounds like a really good project if it could help reduce the pollution and contamination of people's wells and our surface water. But it's kind of a red flag when you don't get an answer, and I'm glad you're here to maybe answer some of these questions for the public to know, because it's about the safety of our community and protecting our waters. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else from the public that wishes to speak? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Lisa Koshard. I am also from Casco. So I have a couple of questions. I've been kind of following this for a while as well. And as Deb stated, I'm hoping this technology will create better solutions for our water. But one question that's been asked over and over again, and I feel we have never gotten a direct answer. Cedron has been asked this question before, and it's not given a direct answer, where the 450,000 gallons of water, of clean water, leaving the project, where it is going, where are the pipes going to be laid out to go to Casco Creek. I mean, that seems to be a large amount of water and really no answers at this point. My second question is this. I know that they're not taking manure from outside of their actual manure on the farm, but my next question is this: will human sludge or human waste be taken in at this place? This is the same technology as they have in Seattle. We want to make sure that we are aware of what is going to be in the process going down the road, and that we're not surprised as time goes on. So those are the two questions I have, and I hope they will be addressed today. Again, I am all in favor of us getting some better technology, but would really like to hear the direct answers for those questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Is there anybody else from the public that wishes to speak? Anybody else from the public that wishes to speak? Yes, sir.
Yeah, Robert Sayers, Forestville. I asked 2 meetings ago a question about the 9 key element plan for the NFB River, and Davina basically answered that the last meeting in saying that she was waiting for the TMDL study results. Now, what I find interesting, and perhaps Davina can explain that later, is so this was a document produced by Davina's department more than 3 years ago, actually in April, 3 years ago, which basically, so you write a 100-page document 3 years ago, and you're telling us now that you wrote that not knowing what the TMDL study would come up with. I mean, the TMDL study, we have different cycles, as you are all aware of. So was this basically for the previous TMDL study, the current TM, if it was for the current TMDL study, I would like to know, so why can you write a document 3 years ago about things you don't know what come out of the study, or if you even had to write the study? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else from the public that wishes to speak? So,
Supervisor from the town of West Kewaunee. I'm all ears today. Except I hope that you'll accept a few questions, that the chairman will allow a few questions after today's presentation. Thank you.
thank you. Is there anybody else from the club? Nancy?
Nancy Utosh, Town of Pierce. Again, I'm requesting today that USDA researcher Tucker Birch be brought in to do a presentation in this department or co-jointly with the health department. Tucker talks about the gastrointestinal illness occurring in Kewaunee County due to fecal matter in water. Last month, I asked that Aaron Augustine, your chair, be removed. I don't appreciate the personal defamation that took place in this department that was discussed last month. I've given Davina and Tim the document from Corporation Counsel showing that there was no email sent from Chair Augustine to myself referring to my repeated ask that Tucker Birch come in to present to Kewaunee County and its citizens on research that took place here. I'm again asking for Aaron's removal. And as a committee, I feel that you should be concerned on a chair that does not relay accurate, truthful information to your committee. And I hope that's taken up in discussion with your group. I'm also bringing up the idea that, for years we've talked about landowner contracts. The most recent violations that took place on an adjacent homeowner near my house on a 30-acre parcel that included 2 wetlands and a house. They were spreading liquid manure from before 9 a.m. until after midnight. Both wetlands were impacted by this manure spreading. And when I asked if the homeowner was going to be notified, I was told by the DNR that this is an absentee landlord, and this is a real problem where we live. Landowners who rent out their property need to be aware of what's going on and what kind of violations are taking place on their land. Industrial waste. I know that there is industrial waste that is spread in Kewaunee County, and with this new technology, I'm wondering if PFAS will be one of the things that is tested for before there is this 350 to 450,000 gallon release into the Casco Creek. Many loads of manure tankers from Denmark's new organics digester are brought into our county. And I'm very concerned that we're not doing PFAS testing on what's being land applied here in Kewaunee County. PFAS should be hugely on our radar here in this office and in our county. And I'm hoping that we'll take it seriously enough to delve into some of the testing that is warranted to make sure that we're not mass contaminating the land here if it's already not mass contaminated with PFAS. I am hoping the part of the Cedron protocol will be testing for PFAS. I'm also very concerned about the quantity of water that Cedron would be using in this treatment facility. I know with the subdivision here, they talk about how the contamination has jumped around due to water usage. When new homes are added and whatnot, there's confusion about how this is affecting that aquifer and how it's affecting the land base. So I'm very interested to know how much water will be used in this system and talk about maybe any of the unintended consequences that may happen because of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else from the public that wishes to speak? Keith?
Keith Bancroft, town of Montpelier. I think most folks here want to see something good happen with this. My concern is it sounds like it's too good to be true, and that often turns out to be the way things end up. And these unintended consequences when we do technological fixes to problems that could be taken care of by nature naturally if we put our animals back out on the land and use regenerative agriculture. I looked at a Cedron presentation on YouTube where it showed taking liquid sludge and then heating that up to evaporate off the moisture, and then using that sludge as a fuel in a boiler and ending up with steam and electricity. I worked in a nuclear power plant for 33 years. Steam cycles with impure water are extremely costly and hard to deal with. We used extremely pure water, and you still had corrosion and problems with mechanical devices wearing out, breaking down. So I just wonder what the magic is that you're going to take liquid shit and you're going to boil it off, and you're not going to have all kinds of corrosion and pollution from burning the shit, and what kind of chemical cocktail you're going to have to use in the water to descale and everything else. It just sounds like an engineering nightmare to me. But obviously, I hope in your presentation you address those, and would really like to know what your chemicals are that you're going to be using in this process, and how they're going to be monitored and where they're going. There's so many things wrong with the industrial CAFO model. I know a lot of you folks here work there, but myself, just, you know, to me, it's inhumane to have thousands of cattle housed in barns where they never see the light of the sun, feel a drop of rain or a snowflake. I grew up on a small dairy farm. Our animals were out on the grass on pasture. In the wintertime, they were outside unless it was a blizzard. It's been proven that if you want to have healthy soil, which is fundamental to healthy people and plants and products, the best way to do that is to grow diverse plants
10 seconds, Keith.
and put the animals back on the soil so that they can feed that soil and end up with better health for everyone.
Is there anybody else from the public that wishes to speak? Anybody else from the public that wishes? Yes, sir.
My name is Brian Hanson, town of Pierce. This is the lesson of the DNR and the cormorants. They introduced cormorants into our area near Washington Island. They nested in Washington Island. There was no other place for them to be. Their excrement killed the island that they were on because of the concentration. They essentially created a concentrated bird feeding operation, and they killed everything off. Now, if they would have been smart, they would have realized this, but they don't, and they don't have a way to handle the problem. But if we had, say, 500 more little islands like that, those birds could have spread that manure all over those 500 islands. We essentially have the same problem here when it's cows. And if our cows would be spread over another 500 islands or small farms, we would not be having this problem. This procedure is just something to try to patch up that system. And it isn't going to work because it's not actually resolving the problem. Now, there's another thing on the horizon that we have to be concerned about, and that is the manufacture of hamburger and insulin. The same process can be used for making milk. That process will be one hell of a lot more efficient than the CAFO operation, and we'll be able to move in here and close off the CAFO operations in a very short period of time. And this county is going to be busted. It's on the verge of financial problems right now, and it's only going to get worse. Having small farms with many people working will improve the economy of the area. Now,
I found this on the web.
the sheriff is over here and he wants to put in a new jail, and we can't afford the new jail now. And if we continue this way, we won't be able to have that jail here, and we're going to be in a more bankrupt situation. We can't. This is an after the process thing. It's not going to solve any problems. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else from the public that wishes to speak? Anybody else from the public? We'll take you, you'll be the last one then. Thank you.
I don't want to take somebody from Kewaunee County's place. If there was someone else, I'll let them go ahead. If not, I'd like to add Christine Reed, and I'm from Forestville, 597 Slip Hollow Drive. I'd like to add on to what Brian was just saying. He's referring to precision fermentation. It is going to disrupt the dairy industry the way that the dairy industry is now. And I've written to Governor Evers. I talked to Josh Cowell about this. To anybody that will listen, whether it's Joel Kitchen or Andre Jacques, I've sent documentation to them. And the industrial farms, especially in dairy land, Wisconsin, should be diversifying their operations to include precision fermentation. You should do both and offer the public the option. Otherwise, your business is going to shrink because precision fermentation has already started to disrupt the market. And it is, like Brian said, reaching price parity. So instead of resisting this process, the CAFOs should be adopting it as part of their operations, and it would solve many, many problems. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to close that for the agenda, and we're going to move on to the presentation of Kinnard Farms and Cedron. I just want to thank Lee for coming, Lucas Reed and Tim Everson for telling us what you guys are going to do with this project here at Kinnard's and giving us an update. So I'll turn it over to you guys, Lee and Lucas, Tim.
Yeah, thank you guys. Can you guys hear me all okay?
Yes, we can.
All right, well, thank you very much. I just want to say thank you guys for inviting me and Cedron to the meeting this morning to present to you guys and give a little bit of background of Cedron as a company, as well as our core technology, and then why, and an update on the project there at Kinnard Farm. So I will share my screen. Give me one. Oh, I will need you guys to allow me to share my screen.
We're working on that.
There we go.
Should be good now, Lucas.
Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
All right. This banner will go away. Yep. All right. My name is Lucas Reed. I'm with Cedron Technologies. I've been with the company for the inception of the company and worked for the Janicki family, which we'll talk about in a second, for over 11 years. Just a little bit about myself. I am a 5th generation farmer and rancher from Southeast Idaho. My family has been farming the same ground since 1870. And so I have a very strong background in agriculture and sustainability, and is one of the main reasons why I became an engineer, as well as why I am so passionate about what Cedron does and what we're able to help bring to the agricultural industry. Cedron's main goal is we really want to create disruptive technologies that fundamentally shift the world's view of waste disposal to resource recovery. So instead of viewing these waste streams, manure streams, waste streams from wastewater treatment plants, et cetera, is actually an opportunity to recover all the useful nutrients and valuables that are in those waste streams that current technologies are not able to recover. Our founder and CEO, Peter Janicki, he is not new to innovative and disruptive technologies, and actually does bringing them to creation, but also deploying them in the industry. He founded a company called Janicki Industries in 1993. That company is very focused on the composite tooling aerospace side of things. Since 1993, it has become a world-renowned company. Has over 1,000+ employees, all the way from engineers to technicians to highly complex machining systems. And so essentially, if it flies today, Janicki Industries has had a part of that. Well, Peter brought that same mentality of bringing innovative ideas, thinking outside the box, et cetera, to the wastewater industry. And then he founded Janicki Industries in 2014, Cedron Technologies in 2014, to really focus on water and sanitation. Since that time frame, we now have over 150 employees. We have offices in 5 states. And out of those 150 employees, we have about 60 of those are engineers. And those engineers are mechanical engineers, controls engineers, process engineers, and biological engineers. So we really have a whole team of engineers with a lot of experience to bring ideas to the wastewater world. And since that time frame, we have developed three products. I heard someone mention earlier today about combustion and steam generation and power creation, and that product was the Janicki Omni processor. And that product was developed in coordination with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and really was developed as a decentralized sanitation platform for developing countries that was all self-containing. So it can power itself, generates clean water, et cetera. That product is not what we're going to be talking about today. The product we're going to be talking about today is called the VARCOR system. The VARCOR system does not create any energy. It is an energy consumer, but it really is based on evaporation and distillation. And the final product that we've developed is actually a single-user firelight toilet, or a single-user toilet, that utilizes the same technology as the VARCOR system, but in a much smaller scale. And that product we actually have built and is implemented in a Washington State park right now on a trial basis. And the real reason for that is it doesn't require any utility hookups, as it is self-sustaining on its own. Well, today we're going to talk about the VARCOR system. That's the main technology that Cedron has developed to help recover the resources within dairy manure. And so Cedron really believes that this system is a complete manure management system and a nutrient recovery system. Traditional technologies only get you part of the way there. From a dewatering system, you get a solid stream, but you also get a still concentrated reject stream that you have to handle. Same thing with biological systems. So the VARCOR system is actually able to take manure and recover it in 3 valuable products: a solids recovery system, an ammonia recovery, and then of course recovering the water that is within the manure itself. Now, how the VARCOR works is Cedron took 3 industry-proven technologies and coupled them together. The first one is thermal evaporation. So we take in a liquid waste stream, manure in this case, and we apply heat to it. When we apply heat to it, we evaporate all of the water and all of the other constituents that have a boiling temperature lower than water, such as nitrogen in the ammonia form. From that evaporation, that drying process, we are able to capture and recover all of the dry solids that was within this waste stream. And that includes all of your phosphorus, your potassium, your organic nitrogen, your carbon, and all your micronutrients. This is a very efficient way to separate solids from liquid constituents. Now, traditionally, thermal dryers are very energy intensive because it takes a lot of energy to heat up water, and then a majority of that energy is required for the phase change of that water. Well, we included in our system a process called mechanical vapor recompression. Mechanical vapor recompression essentially is a very efficient way to boil water, where you harness and take advantage of all the energy it took for that phase transfer of the water to steam, and you collect all of that vapor, you run it through a compressor and add in a little bit of mechanical energy, and you actually increase the temperature of that steam by increasing the pressure of that steam. So now we take that now hotter steam and we utilize it as the heat source for the dryer itself. Now, this process is about 30 times more efficient than direct boiling and is utilized within multiple industries out there. It's utilized in the formation of condensed milk, the recovery of de-icing agents at airports, as well as desalination facilities. Now, the last technology that we looked at was once you get all of this vapor, and really the issue is the nitrogen in the ammonia form and being able to recover it. Well, when it's in the vapor form, ammonia has a different boiling temperature than water. And so what we do is we added a distillation process to the system, where through that distillation process, we're actually able to separate out the ammonia from the water via their different boiling temperatures. And the last two products that we're able to recover is the nitrogen and the aqueous ammonia form here, and then a clean water product. So the Varcor system in whole takes a liquid waste stream and is able to take that liquid waste stream, manure in this case, and separate it into 3 valuable byproducts. None of these are a reject stream. Now, why Cedron believes the Varcor is so effective is because we utilize thermal evaporation and distillation. We are using the thermal properties of the different elements in order to separate them. We don't use a biological system. We don't use a chemical system. We just use evaporation. So if you think about a pot on your stove and you put soup in it, and if you add heat to that pot, eventually you'll evaporate all of the water out and anything else with a boiling point less than water. And what you'll be left with is your suspended solids, but also your dissolved solids. And this is one of the critical items that differentiates the Varcor system from a lot of other dewatering systems or solid separating systems, is that we're able to get all the dissolved solids, not just some of them, all of them. So this includes all of your dissolved phosphorus ends up in our solids product. And from the manure application, this is a very beneficial soil amendment that has a high NPK value. Again, we utilize thermal evaporation. We're able to capture and utilize the energy that it takes to evaporate water very efficiently using the mechanical vapor recompression cycle. And so once we collect all that water, all the ammonia, we run it through the condensation process. And during that condensation and the distillation process, we're able to separate out the constituents into the liquid ammonia product and the clean water product. There is a small amount of what we call non-condensables. This is your dissolved carbon dioxide, a small amount of methane that is generated from manure, not from our process. It's just there. We don't generate anything. We just separate all the constituents. But this small volume of non-condensables is we treat it before it is released into the environment. So there are no smells that are generated from this process. So in review, if we think about manure is mostly water. It's 94% water. And so manure has a little bit of nutrients with a lot of water. And what we're trying to do is separate those nutrients from the water in a very effective manner and be able to use those nutrients in the agricultural purposes in a very agronomical manner as well. And so if you think about that manure, we took that manure through the VARCOR process and are able to separate the water into its own bucket, all the solids into its own bucket, and then the ammonia and the nitrogen and the ammonia form into its own ammonia fertilizer bucket. Now, this picture here is actually a picture of the water coming out of our system that has been operational in Indiana for the last since 2019, so almost 4 years now. And it is shown a non-detective solid. So all of the phosphorus, potassium, micronutrients, etc., is a non-detect in this water product. It also, for this project at Kinnard Farms, and to meet all of our discharge quality requirements, we will have a 99% plus reduction of the ammonia, and that's what our recovery rate is of the facility in order to meet our water quality requirements. The dry solids that we recover, this top left picture right here, that is actually the picture of the product that comes directly out of our machine. We utilize a process called thin film drying. So essentially it's like cooking a crepe, and we scrape that crepe off of our heating surfaces, and we end up with a flake of material. That material is an 88% dry product, so very, very, very little water in it, and it has all the phosphorus and potassium that was originally in the manure product. The bottom picture there is actually a picture of some material that we have been using on test plots and over the past 4 years, and really characterizing the value of this product in agricultural spaces. And on the right-hand side is a picture of the product pelletized, just showing the form factor of this product can be changed depending on the application to bring additional value to the user. And I want to mention a couple of things about this product. One of the critical items, and we find the most value in, is this product includes, of course, all of your phosphorus, your potassium, your organic nitrogen, but it also has all of your carbon, right? And with that carbon helps develop and promote soil health through traditional non-tillage practices. So it is a very efficient use and recovery of those nutrients and that carbon, and helps benefit the soil health that it's applied to. This is a picture of the liquid ammonia fertilizer. This product is a 10% by weight nitrogen fertilizer product, and it is an OMRI listed product as well. And I forgot to mention that the dry solid product is an OMRI listed product as well. And the reason why that's so important is because we don't add any chemicals to the system. We don't chemically change these constituents. All we're doing is adding heat and then distillation. And so all of these products that are generated from the VARCOR system, are recovered from the VARCOR system, are all organically listed, and there's no additives to the process other than heat. So the benefits of the VARCOR system, the number one benefit is that the VARCOR system processes the manure as the manure is generated. So what this means is that you don't have to rely on long-term storage for land application, which means that you get rid of the need for lagoons. And getting rid of lagoons helps decrease the carbon footprint of the farms. It helps decrease all of the greenhouse gases generated through long-term manure storage, such as methane, nitrous oxide, etc. And because we're able to separate those different constituents into their appropriate buckets, the nutrients into theirs and the water into it, it really helps decrease the transportation costs of handling those products and trying to get the value that those products bring to the agricultural space. What does this mean for the local community? You guys will have clear roadways. You remember the pie chart I showed earlier? Well, 94% of manure is water. And if we're able to remove that 94% of volume and are able to recover that water and then put those nutrients in their small buckets, it will significantly reduce the number of trucks on the road, the noise, and the land application requirements of what is needed today. The second big thing, it will end the need for land application of manure. Manure is applied to farmlands for the nutrient value. They apply based on agronomical rates, and they're really trying to recover and recycle those nutrients in the most efficient way possible. However, land application of manure requires the farmers to essentially till in the manure. Because they have to till in the manure in a waiting time for that manure, the water to dry out to get back on, they're not able to completely practice no-till farming practices. Well, because the Varcor system actively and processes that manure and removes the need for land application, farmers are able to convert more land into no-till farming practices. And what this means is it promotes soil health. Soil health helps is part of the whole circle of water quality. You have healthy soil, soils are able to filter out the water, the nutrients, the plants are able to use the nutrients, and you're able to continue building a healthy water cycle in the local community. And this allows farmers to take full advantage of the growing season. They're able to manage their crops better because they're not having to manage all of this manure application. What this means for the local community, as I mentioned, is soil health and restoration. It helps return carbon to the land and promote sustainable soil health for future generations in the area. The third main benefit of the Varcor is we're able to separate out those nutrients that was part of that manure. And if you remember, again, I point back to the pie chart that I showed, is that manure is 94% water. And it contains all of your nitrogen and all of your phosphorus. Well, I like to think of that as like if you wanted salt and pepper, but the salt and pepper is in the same shaker and all you wanted was salt, you're not effectively using that product. Whereas with the Varcor system and what Cedron has developed is we're able to separate those nutrients and recover them in their own buckets, which allows the farmers to apply the right nutrient to the right crop at the right time, which means it's an effective use of nutrients and leads me into my fourth benefit here, or the benefit to the local area, is it keeps the waterways and the water tables clean. You don't have land application, you don't have runoff due to unforeseen rain events, you don't have over application of nutrients, you have the proper amounts of nutrients applied to the right crops when they're ready for it. Now, why did Kinnard Farms decide to work with Cedron? Well, Kinnard Farms, they're a leader in their industry. I've toured many dairy farms across the entire United States, and I can tell you that Kinnard Farms is the most innovative dairy farm that I have toured. They're a leader in bringing innovative technologies to the table because they're always looking to find the better way to do the job. How to be stewards of the land, how to keep the waterways clean, how to be good community members. Those values align with the Cedron values. In addition, they're dedicated to minimizing their environmental impact. They want to look at the most efficient way to utilize the resources they have at hand, that we have at hand. They're stewards of the land, looking how do we implement no-till farming practices across our entire operation. And really the water quality initiatives that they have continued to look at. All of those core values are what Cedron's core values are as well. And so that is why Kinnard Farms and Cedron have actually been working and talking about this project since the inception of the technology years ago. And so with that said, I want to say thank you guys for the presentation, for allowing me to present here today. I think if it's open for Q&A, I'll answer a few questions.
Yeah, I'll open up to the board if the board has any questions for Lucas or Tim.
Am I allowed to ask questions?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I think this is Davina. I'm the director of the Land and Water Department. I've talked to you guys several times. Can you talk more about the amount of water that's going to be discharged to the Casco Creek, the impact of that amount of water, and then like the purity of it, I guess? I think that's one of the key questions a lot of our citizens have had.
Yep, I'll gladly speak to that. So we engaged with the DNR on where we want to where we've selected to discharge the clean water recovered from the facility. It is in if you look at our permit, it is in a unnamed tributary to Casco Creek, and it is off of, I pulled up the map here. It is it is on the east side of Oak Road between, I think County Line S, I'm not familiar with the road names, but S and Pheasant Road. So it's about 2 miles from the facility. DNR, they did a stream study on that discharge location and looked at the wildlife category of that stream, et cetera, and calculated what our discharge limits will be for that facility based on our flow rates and the stream characteristics. They provided us that. If you look at that, our permit versus what the town of Casco's wastewater treatment permit is, very similar very similar in total water quality, with ammonia levels below the 5 parts per million, phosphorus below 7 parts per million, et cetera. So they've established all of those limits for us. So that is what our facility is designed to do. And we've submitted all of our plans are essentially what they consider is the treatment train to ensure that we would meet those requirements. The volume from a max flow perspective would be 450,000 gallons per day. 450,000 gallons per day is we did a hydrogeo study on the watershed of Casco Creek up into the first culvert that it underpasses the road. We looked at the 25-year flood volume design criteria that all roadways are designed to, and our flow rate is 0.1% of that total of the 25-year flood design criteria. So a very small volume of what all the infrastructure is designed for. From a perspective here, the town of Casco's wastewater treatment plant discharges about 100,000 gallons a day. On average, our max is 450, but on average, we will be around the 300,000 gallons per day. In addition, we will be able, during the startup of this facility, we will be we'll be continually taking quality tests. DNR is still working on what our reporting requirements are and what instrumentation will be required, et cetera. But this is something that we're very familiar with, is our facility in Seattle, Washington, that is based on human waste, has a very similar discharge permit and all of the cadence for reporting. So Cedron is very familiar with this. During the startup process, we will be utilizing the lagoon system that is currently on Kinnard Farms to ensure that our water quality is meeting the discharge requirements. Once we can show that the facility is doing that continuously, that is when we will start to discharge to Casco Creek. Did that answer your questions?
Yes, thank you.
Lucas, Tim Kennard, we talked at the Village of Casco meeting last time. I'm going to ask you maybe some of the same questions I did last Tuesday.
Okay.
One of the questions, Lucas, that came up was, people always ask, the water is going back into the creek. You sort of answered that. You answered that it should be able to handle it. I questioned you about winter time with things freezing. Is that a concern? I'm going to ask you that again.
We've looked into that. We do not believe that will be a concern during winter time. The flow rate of that creek, there might be intermittent times that the top will freeze, but from a flood perspective, if that's what you're getting at, we don't believe that will be an issue.
Okay, sounds good. One of the other questions that did come up is everyone's saying, well, you have this wonderful clean water, and I think you were gone last time. Lee answered it at the meeting. Why can't we use it for something else? Why can't you give it to the cows to drink? Why can't you use it for other things on the farm? So
Can you answer that a little bit or give us some insight?
I would say that there are certain regulatory hurdles that make that very challenging, unable to utilize it for irrigation purposes. And then I would let Lee speak to the reason for not being, for not utilizing it for cow watering initially. I can tell you that during, bringing a new technology to the table and developing the history and the quality, et cetera, we hope that one day that we'll be able to find a better use for that water, is in trying to work with farms to make essentially a non-discharge facility. But today we are not able to do that.
And the plant, I'll compare it to the Village of Casco sewer plant. You already said we dump about 100,000 gallons of water back into the creek. You're talking about 450,000. This plant is probably going to be just a bigger version of what the Village of Casco has. Is that correct? With people there watching it, with all the sensors, if something goes wrong, it's diverted. That is all going to be there, correct, Lucas?
That is correct. It will be manned 24/7. We will have essentially inline sensors that give us the characteristics of the water. If there is any indication that the water is not meeting the quality requirements, then yep, it would be diverted from start point at Casco Creek back to the lagoon system it currently installed at Kinnard Farms.
One of my last questions I'm going to ask you before I let somebody else go. How long should this plant last? I know the Village of Casco, we have to update our plant every so many years. I assume what's the life expectancy of this?
20-year design criteria.
Okay.
Hey, Lucas, this is Aaron here. One question I have, you did touch base on the 3 waste streams. Can you just kind of touch on the top 2 other waste streams, where those will be going, if they will be staying locally or they will be getting shipped out?
Yep. So the other 2, and not to correct you, but I don't view those as waste streams. I view those as fertilizer, like recovered fertilizer products. That fertilizer will be essentially distributed because they have the organic certification, the organic food, the organic farming market. And because it's in a compact form, we'll be able to ship that fertilizer to the areas of the country throughout the different seasons for the use case. So in the wintertime, we'll be shipping that material to southern states. And then during the summertime, if local organic farmers want to utilize that product, we would be distributing it locally.
You.
Lucas, Nick Gillett here. You mentioned a little bit manning the plant 24/7 and the ability to divert to existing lagoons. Is there any other backup strategies that will be in place, other than the diversion back to lagoons?
So we have redundancy built within the system, and we do have capacitance that allows on the in-feed side for our facility to be able to go through some normal maintenance conditions. So the idea is that no manure that comes from the digesters, Lee's current operation, would not go through our system. If our system is down for a long-term time frame, let's say a tornado happens, an earthquake happens, or something like that, then the lagoons are the ultimate emergency solution.
This is Davina again. Will you be taking any other manure or byproducts or human waste? I think that was a question that was asked today.
No, the only feedstock at this facility will be coming from Kinnard Farms. There will be no human waste. No human waste will enter this facility, and no other CAFO manure will come here either.
Thank you. All right.
Yes, Cindy Kinnard our public health would like to ask a question.
Lucas, can you maybe explain the qualifications of the people that will be working in the water treatment facility?
Yep, so we will have, from a maintenance perspective, we will have millwrights. Those are, essentially history of like diesel mechanics, heavy industrial machine design or machine mechanics, etc. That'll be our maintenance team. We have facilities being built in Fair Oaks, Indiana, which is about 3 hours south of you guys, or of Green Bay. So we will have a very large engineering presence in that area as well that will be supporting these projects and an on-call service as well. We monitor these facilities 24/7 from our main, corporate headquarters, if you will, just north of Seattle, Washington. All of the operators for the facility will have their operator licenses. So very similar to a wastewater treatment plant.
Thank you.
How many people do you anticipate working in this facility or being there on staff?
2 to 3 people on staff, 24/7. And then the heavy maintenance team will be a rotating maintenance team between multiple facilities.
3 people, 24/7. Nick, do you have more?
Yeah, Lucas, could you speak to the concern about PFAS and if there's any PFAS detected in manure, CAFO manure, or any of the feedstock that would be going in?
We've taken PFAS samples at the farm in Indiana with non-detects. We have not taken samples at Kinnard Farms. But again, we don't introduce any, we do not introduce any additional chemicals to the system. This is a fully organic system. So from that perspective, we do not believe that there would be any PFAS in the manure unless it was present beforehand.
Thank you.
One question I have on when you're heating the steam, and is there any discharge smokestacks or anything like that that'll be cleaned and scrubbed from that standpoint?
So I did mention there is a volume of non-condensables that essentially when you boil something, you get a lot of those non-soluble items, dissolved gases come out of solution. That's a very small stream. It's roughly, for this size of this facility, it's about the size of a battery powered leaf blower. It's about 150 CFM. That'll go through a biofilter, so it'll be treated.
Lucas, I want to just clarify a little bit from the Village of Casco standpoint. I know when you mentioned 3 employees, some of the folks didn't feel that was enough. The Village of Casco has 1 operator that runs our sewer plant. We have a couple little helpers that might go down and check on it on the weekends. So clarification, our 1 certified operator runs the Village of Casco sewer plant 24/7, 365. So Lucas, one other thing that came up, there was a fair amount of questions that the community has asked, and I know you can't answer them all, and I know we're just here for a short presentation. I know there are some folks that had sent you an email probably with 20+ questions on. I know you're busy. Some of the questions you probably could not answer because they're business related, that would fall more to Lee. Do you think you would have time to maybe address some of those via email to some of those folks?
Yep, we can address those. I think most of those were addressed in this presentation today. So if there are a couple that I did not hit on, please let me know.
Okay, thank you, Lucas. We'll make sure that you get the email again.
I sent the email both to Lee and to Lucas that I received yesterday.
Okay, thank you, Lucas.
Do we have any other questions?
Just as a question, do you feel, how many questions on that list were not answered in today's presentation? My goal was to answer as many as I could.
There is, just from this one individual, there was 22 of them, but some of them have subparts of A, B, C, and D. So you hit on some of them. Some of them are more technical that I don't think we have time to get into. Some of them are more business related that maybe Lee would have to give you permission to even answer those questions to that person. And I believe those folks understand you maybe cannot answer all of them, but if you could find time to maybe shoot through that list again and just clarify some of them for them, that would be really appreciated.
Will do.
Okay, thanks.
One other quick question. Lucas, you had mentioned working with the DNR. I think one of those questions had mentioned, is there any EPA oversight on this? And just curious if you can address any of those,
Yep, so,
relationship.
yep, so the authority of jurisdiction for this facility from a water quality perspective, an air permit perspective, and an operational perspective is DNR. Now, DNR's regulations have to meet or exceed the EPA standards. So the EPA, they essentially delegate that authority and responsibility to the state, and then the state has to ensure that they're meeting the EPA requirements or exceeding the EPA requirements. So I would answer that question that the EPA is one level removed away, but they do, of course, have the ultimate authority, and we have to meet all of those standards.
Thank you.
Anything you want to add?
I guess, I'd like to address a little bit why we're going down this path. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Lee Kinner. I'm a 5th generation dairy crop farmer. And really our mantra, our family's mantra forever and ever has been leave the land in a better condition in which it was found. And I think we've really been on the forefront of trying to do that. So often perception is that, hey, everything was peachy keen 50, 60 years ago before farms consolidated and became larger. And so often the perception is, hey, the answer is, let's unconsolidate farms. I think we've got a few problems with that. There are very few people who would be willing to take on that lifestyle. We'd be extremely short of farmers if we were demanding 365 days a year, 7 days a week. I don't think too many people would want to enter into that kind of lifestyle. So we look at things historically and very long term. We look at the soils in this area and the soil health. And again, the reason we're interested in this technology is 40 years ago, 50 years ago, my parents, my grandparents were very proud to be amongst the first to introduce liquid manure pits to the region. And why were they so happy with that? Water quality problems were incredibly huge. All of these little dairies had outlets that weren't necessarily good outlets. There was tile lines that went to rivers. Some of our best neighbors that considered themselves conservationists were very proud that their dairy was located in a floodplain, and their manure system was, hey, when the river flooded in spring, problem gone. Those things are not acceptable. There's a resource to be recycled. And when we look at it very holistically, we were very fortunate. My dad's roots, my parents' roots, they were good business people and very good scientists, very much cared for the land, very much had to figure out a way to be sustainable long before the word sustainable existed. We had to do a balance, economy, community, it all has to work together, environment. So they were very proud to start collecting this liquids. But that was 50 years ago. And I remember my father saying very early on, there's going to come a point where we're going to go from manure with a little bit of water in to water with a little bit of manure, which it's a good thing that we're collecting all of this water. It's a great thing. That water didn't belong going to the places it was going. Over the years, unfortunately, I've lost a lot of my heritage, a lot of my cousins. That's what our land base is built on. As people pass away, we've inherited the farms, and you discover these systems. It was pretty obvious as to how wastewater was treated. I think the real aha moment for us was 40 years ago. We had a very young, very aggressive, very forward-thinking, very science-based agronomy team that came to us and said, look, water quality and soil health go hand in hand. Soil health wasn't talked about. It was on nobody's radar back then. And he broke it down very simply for us. He said, okay, look, you're from a region that when the Peshtigo fire went through, you guys had about 9% organic matter in your soils. Every farm we pick up today is about 2% organic matter. That's not sustainable. It's the very definition of non-sustainable. And until you solve that issue, you're never going to fully solve your water quality issues. What excites us about this technology is 30 years ago, we weren't collecting nearly as much water off of the dairies. And we could still do a lot of no-till. We were probably 75, 80% as a family no-till 30 years ago. It was unheard of. No-till cover crop. And we have some soils that we have not tilled, and we've kept cover crop every year for 37 years now. That is no longer 2% organic matter. That is approaching 4% organic matter soil. We talk about what that does for a community, for the watershed, for soil health. Really, every time you go up a point in organic matter, if you're a soil scientist, you're going to double your water holding capacity. What's been frustrating as we collect more and more water, we've literally had to go backwards. We've had to do more tillage because the nutrients in that water are so dilute that the only way to hold that water in place is to do full width tillage. We're still coming back with the cover crop, and we're holding our own on those fields. We're not losing organic matter. We're even building a little bit of cover crops. But once you go to no tillage, roller crimping, these things that work really well with nature, you can really very quickly rebuild organic matter. And that's what really attracted us to this technology. When you can hold not only the soil in place, but actually build the soil, sequester carbon, actually build organic matter. We feel that this innovation, this technology, is the fast track to getting that done on a very large scale. We've been building organic matter for the better part of 2 decades, but painfully slow. So that's a little bit about us and why we've chosen to go with this. So, other than that, any other questions, I guess?
Well, if there's no other questions, the committee would like to thank Cedron and Kennard Farms for coming in and explaining this technology today. And if there are some questions that arise by the public, please send out an email to us. We'll be sure to get it over to Kennard Farms or Cedron and get it answered the best we can. But I want to thank you guys for bringing this technology into this area, and we look forward to working with you guys and helping solve some of these water quality issues here in our county. So thank you again.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for having us, guys.
Thank you.
Right, with that, we'll move on to department reports. Turn it over to Davina.
Yeah, so for animal waste storage permits, we had none for the last month. So what are we in July, June? June update from Travis, who's been really busy again. For manure hauling audits, just random ones. They were all surface applications. All rates and setbacks were in compliance. So if he's seeing someone doing a surface application or he's on the way to an NR 151 walkover, he'll stop, make sure that the rates, make sure all the setbacks are, and then no runoff. So all 4 of those were in compliance. 13 walkovers were done for a little over 1,600 acres. 8 were in full compliance. 5 received compliance schedules. So some recommendations of manure storage abandonments, some erosion that we found. So we're going to get some waterways and then the 5-foot tillage setback. So all of those compliance schedules get a date in which they need to be in compliance or they will lose their tax credits. We had 4 notices of non-compliance for non-farmland preservation numbers. I think 2 of these were horse farms stacking in non-compliant areas. We're working with all of them. They're very gracious because they didn't know a lot of they knew that there was rules, but they didn't know that it also pertained to them. So we're working with them and actually writing them 590 plans for their 5 to 10 acres. So they learn how to manage their horse manure as a nutrient, trying to change that mentality for them. And then we had one of them is actually gonna work with the NRCS to get some money and install practices. Nutrient management, farmer education has been very busy. Overall, this year, we had our highest participants, and that's where the farms come in and write their own nutrient management plans. We had 33 participants this year for about 7,400 acres. So that was our largest participation yet. Still writing for, we're working on some to get their soil samples. We're also now going to expand that class. Brad Holtz, who passed away recently, taught the NWTC class, farmer education. And with him passing, we're working with DADCAP to potentially merge that into our course. We'll get additional resources through DADCAP and then work with them so that those participants don't lose their ability to write their own plans. Conservation plans for approval. Opichka is a new or update. Wayne Bradley updated some of the plans, and Furrow is a new plan. Again, the new plans need to have a conservation plan to get into compliance with farmland preservation. The updates are if they take new land, get them in their plan to get updated so that they're in compliance with the NR 151 rules. Nothing for public health and groundwater protection ordinance. Nothing for chapter 39. We did receive the Bodwin write-up from DNR, and we are looking at that for potential citations. Well testing update, we did have 289 wells that were tested and brought to Stevens Point Lab. So thank you for all my rushed emails saying I had leftover bottles. So thank you guys for helping. They went to the lab on Tuesday, July 11th. We also took the 20 human bovine source tracking bottles from the village of Casco. I handpicked all 20 of them. They're all in the northern part of Casco, which I mean is the northern part from the river. They go from the new subdivision to the newer south subdivision to all the way. Yeah, so all the way. So there's a good cross section of where we took those samples. Everyone that I asked was willing and happy to take the samples. So I don't have a clue when those are going to be done, but I will work with that for an update. The education program for that well testing is set for September 6th. And that is going to be at 6 o'clock in this building. So Kevin Masaryk again will come and do the groundwater presentation. So September 6th at 6 o'clock. And then Paul and Andrew have been extremely busy too. Paul's been working with, we submitted a trim grant, and I believe we just got the trim grant for the captain. We're going to do some barnyard and manure storage for him, and several manure storage abandonments. So getting some of these older pits that were put in before I was even born, we're getting them properly abandoned. Zoning and sanitary, they've had 9 soil inspections, 7 septic inspections, 6 inspection reports, 7 permit applications, 2 house numbers. And this is for the community. So this is the updated as of yesterday. So the main column is a total of not inspected or no soil evaluations. We have 15 left. Those 15 have a deadline of July 31st. If they do not comply with the July 31st update, August 1st, those will all go to court counsel. So really we had, so 11 of 22, we had 92 that had no inspection. We're down to the 15 really, because 42 failed. So they have an install deadline for their septic system. Many of them have already pulled permits, and over 35 have passed. So they got the soil evaluation done, everything passed and is in compliance with state law. So the boys have been extremely.
Is there still funding through state to update septics, or is that done with now? You know,
I think there is, we've had a couple people come in, we're waiting on the finalized budgets. So we keep kind of taking applications, and then if there is money through that fund, then we submit the application. And then lastly, just answering again from the last month's public comments. Most were answered with Cedron today. And there was one question about the Casco pollution and why is Dragon doing the work? As of right now, Dragon, whatever it is currently not contracted to do any work at this time. If they are contracted, that will be something through the LCC or the village of Casco. The 20 human bovine samples that were in addition, as I just talked to, were sent to Stevens Point Lab. So they went through our local lab that we always use. They're going to be paid through the ARPA funding. And I was the one that selected all the 20 wells. So no one knows the well locations of those 20 bottles except for me. And I'm working on answering the questions. I'm going through all the previous meetings and trying to get all the questions together. Questions for me?
If I could.
Yeah.
You had made in the minutes, you had explained the Nike element process a little bit with,
Yes.
in regards to the TML. Could you
Yes.
explain again?
So
that
the
process?
9 key element plans have to be written before the TMDL. Because if we get the TMDL, say it's passed tomorrow, and then it takes me 2 years to write the 9 key element plan, we can't do anything to implement the TMDL. This is just how the DNR works. It was written 3 years ago because we also ran into COVID. And COVID postponed the TMDL, which was supposed to be done maybe over a year and a half ago. So in the 9 key element planning process, I am working directly with those that are working with the TMDL. So it's constantly a back and forth working on updating those targets. That's why a lot of the targets are like a 10% reduction, a 20% reduction, a percent reduction. So as soon as we get that TMDL passed, we know if phosphorus is 20, then we have to do a 10% reduction from it. Also remember that we are back to our 5 staff. Prior to getting sanitary and zoning and all of that too. So I am working with the state to potentially get some funding for another staff to implement TMDL and the 9 key element plans. So that is all part of this too. I've almost completed the Kewaunee River one. So that's why there's such a time lag between them, because they have to get written before. And if I have time to write something, I'm going to write that. And if it's several years prior to it being done, then at least that document's done and ready to go when the TMDL passes.
Was there a change in DNR personnel on our local TMDL for the Lakeshore region?
Yeah, it did change through it, but it just took so much time for testing, and then COVID shut down and DNR had stricter standards for working through COVID and collecting samples than we did. You know, we were in the office most of the time, but they were not in the office. So we had to work through that whole situation. But yes, it's been on the shelf for 3 years, and as soon as the TMDL passes, it's ready to go.
Thank you.
Any other questions for today? Otherwise, we'll move on to cooperating agency reports. Jason is not here from NRCS. UW Extension, Chris, do you have anything?
Yeah, I checked in with Erica. She said she was busy with fair stuff. You would understand. But as far as crops and soils update, I've been heavily involved with the summer UW Extension Badger crop webinars. Those are really good, timely topics. It could be from insects to diseases to our special drought, flash drought characteristics that we had. I've had meetings with UW Extension staff involved with the first year of the nitrogen optimization pilot programs. While we don't have any in this area, I'm just kind of keeping tabs of like how's it going and kind of how those first groups have progressed so far in their so this is for on-farm nitrogen use research. And so then I can kind of look at what they tested, what worked, what didn't work, and then maybe encourage some people to apply for that grant money in the next grant cycle. Also attended a colleague of mine started at the Hancock Research Station, Hancock Highlights, and there was a really good topic about soil test P&K by Dr. John Jones, and just talking about, we don't have it here, but on sandier, lighter soils that they're actually seeing potassium leach, kind of like nitrogen. And so that was really interesting. And then they're doing continued research tied with the university about, should that change our recommendations? Should there be one more column for those sandier type soils, and how we should address P&K on those ones? What else? I attended the Fox demo project, which was very similar to some of the cover crops I've seen in this area. It was very much a struggle for that awesome practice. They looked several stages behind, but with some of the recent rain, I think that they'll kick into gear. And I've seen tasseling corn, so it's coming. This is a very important time that we get some more continued rain for those corn grain crops out there. I've been able to contribute back in June to 2 YouTube videos based on another soil nitrate test, the pre-sidrous nitrate test, usually taken in June, to help farmers assess if they do need to put more additional nitrogen on, or if their soils, because of organic matter, are able to produce enough throughout the rest of the growing season. And then was able to write an extension article about that. So that was pretty fun to be able to do pretty early on, switching into this job. And then some upcoming events. I've been every other week, the American Society of Agronomy has a sustainable ag conference going on. It's through Zoom, and they've had some really good speakers that are going on through that. Farm Technology Days is starting tomorrow, I think. Wednesday, Thursday, or no, did it start today? My gosh, I don't even know.
It's usually Tuesday.
All right, it started today. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is Farm Technology Days in Baraboo. There is a slightly closer one to you guys. In Oconto County, just at Lemire Farms in Abrams, there's a winter wheat field day on the 19th. So at this one, they have Sean Conley and Dr. Smith coming in, talking about agronomics and disease management. They have some demo test plots there showing some fungicide applications, nitrogen timing, and also some sulfur application research in wheat. And then Dr. Brian Luck will be showing some drone technology for sensing, scouting, and spray applications as well. So that runs from 10 to 2 at Lemire Farms in Abrams. And I have a print off if anyone's interested in that. They do have lunch as well. And then coming up is the North American Manure Expo. It's hosted in Wisconsin, August 9th and 10th. Just wanted to share about that.
One question, Chris, I have on PSNT tests. I know we pulled some here when we were the nitrogen applications down. Does a drought affect some of that testing and the results we get back?
It does. Yeah. So anytime you have like a really an extreme year, so extremely dry or extremely wet, you should be a little bit more guarded in the stuff you get back. So the next time you get a flush of water into the system, then all those microbes and stuff start cycling that nitrogen again. So
There wouldn't be questions in regards to the results. It would just be that the results are skewed because of the extremes.
yeah. Yes. Good.
Any other questions for Chris? All right, we have nothing from USDA today. Comments from state legislators. Sheriff, is there any comments you want to make?
Well, I don't know if you wanted to cover it under this one or other. I don't want to be wherever you feel it's appropriate.
agencies.
We'll go under next one, other agencies and organization reports.
Yeah, so go ahead.
We do have a state legislator office here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If you want.
Yeah, if you have any, I'm sorry.
So Nick Kervillian, I'm the district director with State Senator Andre Jock. Really, so Senator Jock is down in Madison today for committee hearings, so I'm here in his place. He would have otherwise have been here. We were invited by community members, so I don't know if you guys have a mailing list, but if we could be added to that to know, yeah. I think I gave it to you at the last meeting, so, but please feel free to add us on to that newsletter or email list so that we know when these are coming out, because we're happy to be here. But as far as any comments, we don't really have any comments at this time, but we are watching the situation, everything that's going on, and you know, just here to learn more about what's going on in the community.
Do you have any questions for Nick? Thank you, Nick.
Yeah,
Sorry.
always feel free to reach out if anybody wants to get with me after the meeting. I'm happy to communicate my contact information, and feel free to contact us anytime.
Thank you. We'll move on to other
Never mind, sorry. I thought you were
other
gonna do this.
agencies and organizations. Sheriff?
Yes, myself and Paul just wanted to come to the subcommittees just to answer any questions you may have. Tonight we have a big vote coming up, big sort of crossroads in this, almost 30 years, over 20 years battle on a facility that's woefully inadequate. But I did share some information via email last week in regards to both the International Building Codes as well as Department of Corrections Statute 350 that relates to the codes in our facilities. So just wanted to address any issues that may help in that decision later tonight. Of course, I'll be there. Paul will be there. Also, from the financial side, we've been working with Kurt Berner from Samuels Group. He's been going back to the successful bidders, looking back on any further refinements, been able to look back in a couple categories that we're able to squeeze a little bit more resources out of. So I think that'll be presented tonight to really come up with the absolute final squeeze numbers that we've got to hopefully, establish a good baseline to make decisions. But again, just any questions you may have on anything that I've shared literally over the last 8 years of the work that I've done on it. And of course, again, the project goes back well over 20, but we've been really digging in on this solid for over 8 years. And if there's another rock that can be overturned, I don't know it. I think, going in tonight, I've said just what everything I can say. I don't know as much more I can say other than, and I will say tonight, the appreciation I have for everybody that's been part of this effort. It's a tough one. It's a tough one, but I think we've arrived at a moment in time where we can finally tackle it. There's a couple financial realities that are in place that haven't been in place and won't be in place. And I think we're at a moment in time there. I think it's a moment in time where we have the right people in the right place. And that doesn't happen very often. So I hope we seize the moment. But again, I'll open up to any questions, or Paul, if you had any comments.
A couple short ones. So I think it was June when the bids were opened. I was viewed that the price went up. I put a couple of options together. I've actually added 2 since then. One was a direct request from one of the supervisors to add 2 million additional funding option. The other one I put there just as a benchmark. So if we had to fund the entire increase by issuing debt, what would that look like? I don't think there's any interest in any supervisors for that. That kind of gives the entire spectrum from funding all of it with additional debt down to none. What that would be, and then a couple of specific options to pick from. But that's all open for discussion tonight at the board meeting.
Are those options available by email before tonight?
I can. I haven't printed them yet because the last one came in yesterday. I was waiting to see what the Kurt would come up with, but I can send those out beforehand.
That's some of the, and you can answer it tonight if you want to. I know the bids obviously scared everybody when they came in so high. And some of the concerns was it's a little short time frame here. Do we wait and rebid? We keep getting told it's going to go up. We're doing this over winter time. There's winter charges. There's all these type of things. If we wait and they do it at a different time of year, are those charges going to disappear? Or is the cost of inflation going to surpass what those winter charges would be? Those are things you might hear about tonight. So just be prepared to maybe answer some of that.
And I think that's the real key, over even the diligence that we've had over the last year. You think about when this first kind of, our initial one 8 years ago, we came to the solution of a public safety building with the sheriff's department, evidence building, and we're at 35 million. And that was a sticker shock back then. Some were on the board, some weren't, but that was a sticker shock. And so to our credit, we went back and we sharpened our pencils and brought that down to 21. And we're like, whoo, there, we did the right thing. But in the time it took us from that point to then say, okay, let's start to create the bid documents and start to do what we need to do. right? All of a sudden, when it came before this group a year ago, we're at 26. And they said, okay, 26, great. We move forward. We're not comfortable with the number, but we okay, that's the number. Now let's get ready to do bid documents. We move forward without the referendum. Now to just do the work that had to be done to get ready for bids, boom, we're at 33. So again, we're going to do our best. We were able to maybe squeeze that back a little bit, but any hesitation, right? We're just continually battling this inflationary number. And so this idea of saying, well, let's put it to a referendum, all that's doing is dooming the community to additional costs. It's not going to change the outcome. Let's see if maybe some costs could be derived by some contract that might like work in the spring versus fall. I think that's going to be pale in comparison to the continued inflationary cycle. So all these little things we're hoping to pick up, we're just getting further and further behind the ball, and it's frustrating. But the good news is with those bid locks, once those bids return, those bid locks for the first time we're locked, right? Now, could something happen? And the question will come up, yes, but that's what we have a contingency for those little things. But the amount of diligence and planning is going to minimize those change orders, those last minute changes. We've got this thing locked down and the bids are locked down. We go past this July, that 45 days, which is in July, we're off to the races again. And anything that we're hoping to pick up is going to get completely outrushed by inflation. So we are in a moment in time.
Yeah, I don't have a question, but I just want to make a comment. I want to thank you and Paul and the administrator. It's been a long number of years putting this all together, and we're coming down to a tough decision tonight, but thank you for all the hard work you guys put into this, and we'll see what tonight brings. So I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Move on to other matters to discuss. Anybody's got anything?
I have just a statement if I can.
Sure.
I know the Village of Casco's been on the radar for a long time here, and I know there's been a little bit of criticism from folks that the Village of Casco is taking a lot of our time as a committee, taking tax dollars to work through the problem. The Village of Casco truly appreciates it, and the residents of the Village of Casco truly appreciate it, and the surrounding people in Kewaunee County. I just want to let everyone know there is discussion on the village board. Our last meeting last Tuesday, our engineer from, was both in Van Dyke, it's now Cedar Court, is looking for funding to run our study to maybe find out about putting municipal water system in. So we've started the process. It's not easy. It's a lot of money, but we're looking outside of the box. The village has never gone down that road before. We're looking at maybe the potential of somehow phasing that in and trying to work through some of our situation that we have in the village. We're hoping things get better, but we can't always rely. So we are moving forward. So anyone that has criticism, the village is not doing anything, please pass that on to them. We are looking at different options. That's my statement.
Thank you, Tim.
For scheduling, I have August 15th, which is what we set last month. And then it would either be September 12th, or if you wanted to do a night meeting, we could do one at 5 p.m. before Kevin talks at 6. That would be up to you guys.
I would rather do it before Kevin talks, but that would be my personal.
Yeah, we could probably discuss that next month when the rest of the board is here too.
Okay.
And then to see if.
So we'll just kind of hold those 2 dates then.
And it was September 6th, you said, right?
Yep, September 6th. So if we did that, it would be at 5 p.m. or else if we did our regular schedule, it would be September 12th. So for sure, August 15, 8:15 here.
I just want to, once again, I want to thank Kinnard Farms and Cedron for coming out today and presenting the project that they have going on there. So once again, thanks again. Thank you to the public for the questions. So with that, we'll look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.